Attention is moving over to Canelo and the potential that he takes on pound for pound talent Terence Crawford. Now, in my mind, maybe the climb in weight will overcome the talent that Crawford has in against Canelo if it is to materialize as the two fight and sign on the dotted line. Do you see it that way? Do you see a route to victory for Terence Crawford?
I think it's a mystery fight because you can never underestimate somebody with the competitive attitude and the resourcefulness of Terence Crawford. I can't tell you how many people told me before Crawford's last fight that that was going to be his comeuppance, and I said no, I don't think so. I think he's too skilled, too seasoned, and has too much for that opponent, and he easily knocked him down 3 times, right?
Mhm.
So Terence is a spectacular talent, and he has one of the greatest assets any fighter can have. He has an innate, inbred mean streak. Loves his mother with an overwhelming passion, but he has a mean streak that he can access at certain moments during the fight, as he did in the last one. And I don't count him out against a larger, stronger man, Canelo Alvarez.
As our discussion was before I hit the record button, we were talking about my place in the UK in Birmingham and some of the history of the UK. And I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the UK boxing. At the top of our news beat is Tyson Fury's retirement and some doubts as to whether that's a steadfast and strict retirement. But if it is, what would be Fury's legacy in your mind? And do you believe we'll see him back in the ring potentially against Anthony Joshua?
I think Fury brought back the paradigm of the great English heavyweight. Had been missing for a while, and he enlivened it. I had a tremendous interest in Fury because he was a project for a while of my very dearest adult male friend in life, Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel preached to me at dinners over and over how great Fury was and how great he was going to be, and he was for a while unbeatably great. He didn't remain that way. George Foreman has always commented, once you're sleeping on silk sheets, it's pretty hard to feel deprived anymore. And Fury eventually was sleeping on silk or satin sheets, and then he went into the most destructive syndrome of modern digital life, which was a television reality series. There's nothing quite as unreal as a television reality series. Once you've talked yourself into the idea that people want to see you wandering around your living room in your pajamas, and because you're such a fascinating personality that they can't stand not to see it, then you've led your way down the path to self-destruction. And Fury's self-destruction was, in my view, fertilized by his reality television series. There's nothing quite as unreal as reality television.
Do you feel that we get the Fury versus Anthony Joshua fight?
Probably. Money talks. It all depends on how much money the Saudis want to fork over for that. But I think at the end of the day, that's old news. Neither of them is anywhere close to what they were at their peak. I'm just happy that I was seated at ringside at Wembley Stadium for Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko in what my beloved colleague Max Kellerman called the greatest sports event he ever saw in his life. I'll never forget that crowd. I'll never forget their response when the fighters walked in. I'll never forget the way Joshua walked up to the ring, stepped into the ring, and then suddenly turned around in the corner to look out at the crowd, not to look across the ring at Joshua, or excuse me, at Vladimir, but rather to look out at the English crowd, in essence saying to himself, oh my gosh, look what I've done. Look at how I have lit up my society, this society, with this opportunity. And then great fight, both guys on the canvas, 11th round knockout for Joshua. Couldn't have been better. Never forget it. And oh, by the way, my favorite memory of all, I'm seated at ringside with Max and Roy, and I turn around and look over my shoulder, and Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield are seated behind me, one row behind me. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what a privilege I have in life. I'm at this event and I'm seated in front of Evander and Lennox.
What a memory indeed. What a moment indeed. Moment may have passed for the talk and the fight surrounding Anti Joshua and Deontay Wilder, but that seems to be the direction now that Tyson Fury has retired, seemingly. Do you still hold interest in a fight between those two, which could have been made a few years back?
I'll watch it. But does that constitute real interest? I'm sorry, it's nothing compared to what it might have been a few years ago. They've both seen better days. And by the way, Joshua wasn't even in the fight against Dubois. He Dubois toyed with him, humiliated him, and I would not have expected to see that. But again, Foreman said it. Once you're sleeping on silk or satin sheets, it's pretty hard to tell yourself that you're hungry and that you need to spend yet another hour in the gym. I think that Joshua reflected in that fight the absence of desire that has now crippled his career.
Do you see that hunger in Daniel Dubois right now?
Oh yeah, I think Dubois he's aiming to be number one. He wants that attention. He wants the acclaim. He'll take any match he can get that leads him toward the top of the heap. And then if he gets to the top of the heap, he'll be a very wealthy man, wealthy beyond anyone's wildest dreams. He'll have those satin or silk sheets, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll see what happens to Dubois at that point.
Last question I want to ask you, like this is always discussed, and especially in the context of having crowned recently a undisputed heavyweight champion in the form of Alexander Usyk. Where do you rate this generation of heavyweights compared to the heavyweights of the 90s and 80s and further back?
Well, I'm an American. And the very first live prize fight I ever saw was Cassius Clay knocking out Sonny Liston February 25, 1964, in Miami Beach. And it's very difficult for me to transpose cultures and say to myself, well, what happens with British heavyweights or heavyweights from other cultures is just as important to everybody all around the world as what happened with Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, George Foreman, all of the guys that I grew up watching and caring about. I'm not going to belittle these guys, but it's two different things. On the other hand, you can't deny their greatness. You certainly can't deny Usyk's worker bee persona, the mentality he's brought to it, the brilliance of his boxing skills, what it means to be a southpaw, his foot movement, all those things which make him extremely difficult to beat. Would he have been favored against Muhammad Ali or George Foreman at their peaks? I don't think so.